This is Logan Cross, broadcasting on 105.7 FM. If you can hear this, you're not alone. It's 6:42 p.m. I'm still alive, and I think you are too. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Temperature's just under 90 degrees out there. It dropped a little after sunset, but the air still smells like the inside of a wet log. Thick, damp, sour, like something's been rotting under the soil for weeks, maybe months. I cracked open the side door earlier just to feel something, anything. And there it was again. That same stench that's been settling in over the past 2 days. No rain, no wind, just that smell and silence. It's been 5 days since the first reports. That's what I'm counting from. 5 days since the coughing started. 5 days since the trains stopped running and my phone buzzed nonstop with people asking me what the hell was going on, and then it just stopped buzzing. Not all at once, but slowly, less and less, until the last message came in from Alina in Portland. They're not speaking anymore. That was all it said. I don't know if she meant her neighbors, or the city, or the government. She didn't say, just, they're not speaking anymore. Here at the station, I'm running everything on backup diesel. Got a solar setup on the roof, but the inverter's been fried since April. Should have fixed it. Said I would. Life had other plans. The generator hums sometimes like it's about to die, but for now, it holds. I've got about 30 gallons of fuel in the basement. Maybe 10 days if I ration the air conditioning and don't keep the mic on too long. I haven't left the building since Friday. Food's running low. I've got water from the backup tank on the roof, still gravity fed. I check the levels every morning. I think it'll last another week. And outside it's getting worse. You know how it started? Not the way they said it would. Not with a siren. Not with some big explosion. Not with news anchors yelling or some last-minute presidential address. It started quiet. My neighbor across the street, Carter, the guy who built his own chicken coop during lockdown, he was coughing for days. Thought it was just the air, or allergies. He said the dust had been worse since the fires in Canada last month. He was still mowing his lawn 3 days ago, still waving, still smiling. But yesterday morning, I watched him stand in the middle of his yard for almost 20 minutes, holding the mower in one hand. Just standing there, not moving, not blinking. His mouth was open, not wide, just slightly ajar, like he was about to say something but forgot how. And then he dropped the mower, walked inside, hasn't come out since. This isn't normal. People keep saying spores now. Some kind of fungal pathogen. Airborne. And silent. There was a rumor going around that it started at that biotech lab outside of Boulder. The one they swore was just doing agricultural research. But someone posted a clip from an internal memo. Said they were working on something that could interface with the central nervous system through mycelial lattices. I don't even know what the hell that means, but it doesn't sound like food-grade mushrooms to me. Phones are still dead. No signal for 2 days. Landlines are just static. Emergency services, if they're still running, they've stopped responding to calls in this area. Last scanner signal I got was from a paramedic in Tulsa, saying his partner walked out of the ambulance mid-transport and just kept walking into the woods. Didn't respond. Didn't blink. Just walked. Nobody knows what triggers it. Some say it's the air. Others think it's contact-based. That it gets in your skin. That if you even brush against someone who's infected, it can find a way in. I've I've heard stories of people digging out their air vents, taping their windows shut, burning their clothes. Me? I'm just trying to breathe less. I've started sleeping in the soundproof booth, double-layered glass, rubber seals. It's the only place I feel maybe safe. I keep the lights dim. It's cooler that way, and the less light, the fewer insects crawling in from under the cracks. I haven't heard birds in 2 days. I've got reports, handwritten, scanned copies. Notes pass through the door slot. A woman named Eva in Stillwater says the entire staff at her local clinic just stopped showing up. Doors locked, phones off, patients outside, coughing, waiting in the heat. One of them collapsed in the parking lot, and nobody moved. Not to help. Not even to react. Like something's broken. She said the trees around her house started growing that fine white fuzz on the underside of the leaves, the kind you'd brush off as mildew, if it wasn't glowing faintly at night. I don't know if I believe her, but I also don't know what's real anymore. I used to play a little game at night. Close your eyes and count how many man-made sounds you can hear. Sirens, planes, distant cars, someone's stereo, that soft whine of a neighbor's AC unit. It used to be easy. I'd get to 10 without thinking. Now, nothing, not even one. The silence is getting louder. I'll be back in an hour with more updates. If you're still listening, write it down. Save this broadcast. Burn it onto a tape, a CD, scratch it onto the wall if you have to. Because whatever this is, it's not done. And I don't think we've seen the worst yet. This is Logan Cross again, 105.7 FM. It's now 8:04 p.m. The lights just flickered again. I'm not sure if it's the generator stalling or if it's the grid trying to come back online for half a second before failing. Either way, I don't trust it. I've shut off the breakers to everything except the station console, the fridge, and one light in the stairwell. Everything else is darkness now. I've been hearing noises, low hums. Sometimes they come through the walls, like a machine starting up, then choking. Like a refrigerator in an empty building trying to keep something cold that no one asked it to. Like old tech that forgot the world shut off. You don't realize how used to noise you are until it's gone. Until every creak in the wall sounds like footsteps. Until the AC kicks in and makes you jump. Until even your own breathing feels too loud. I haven't slept more than 2 hours in the last day and a half. Something's wrong with my skin. I don't know if it's paranoia or dehydration or just my brain cooking in this heat, but my arms feel prickly, like I'm covered in static or being watched. I keep checking for bites, rashes, nothing yet, but I keep rubbing, scratching. I haven't gone outside, not since Saturday. Not since the air started tasting like mushrooms left too long in the fridge. I heard from Caleb Morgan. He's alive. Somehow. If you're listening, man, your signal was rough, but I heard you. He's broadcasting from a station outside Wichita. Said the spores are real. Said he used to work in mycology for the university there, back before the grant money ran out. He says the growth rate of the fungal samples that leaked, or maybe mutated, has no known parallel in environmental biology. That it doesn't act like a plant, or like mold, or even like an organism. It responds. He didn't explain what that meant. Just that it responds like it's aware. He said it's not airborne the way we thought. Not in the traditional sense. It doesn't just float on the wind. It rides on heat, on breath, on moisture. That's why the cities went down faster than the rural areas. More mouths, more sweat, more heat. Caleb thinks the real infection starts neurologically, that it gets into your lungs, then your bloodstream. Then it spreads to the brain, but not by breaking it. It connects to it. Interfaces, he said, like plugging into a circuit board. He sounded scared, not in the panicked way, but like someone who knows what's coming and knows there's no way to stop it. He mentioned something else, said he saw someone who had it, said they weren't dead. They were just changed, standing in the sun, breathing in shallow, slow gasps, like they didn't need as much oxygen anymore, like they were adjusting. He said the person's eyes were dull, fogged over, but not blind, tracking movement, watching, quiet. He said they weren't speaking, but they were listening. I don't know how much of that is real. I don't know what to believe anymore. But I've stopped assuming I'm safe just because I'm indoors. The vents are closed. I've taped up the edges. I don't know if it helps, but it gives me something to do with my hands. I tried calling my sister again, just once, out of habit. She lives in Athens, Georgia. Last I heard, the university had gone dark. A few people reported seeing barricades outside the med school. Then nothing. No power. No messages. Her last voicemail was from Thursday. She said she was fine, that she was going to check on her lab, that she'd call back in 10 minutes. That was 5 days ago. There's something about not knowing. It's worse than knowing someone's gone, because your brain keeps cycling through all the versions of them. The healthy ones, the scared ones, the ones still trying, the ones who stood too close to someone coughing. I keep hearing her voice, not in a ghost way, just in that way where you remember the tone of someone saying your name. Logan, always with that half laugh behind it, like she knew I was already thinking something dumb. If you're out there, Jules, I'm still here. I haven't gone quiet yet. The windows here are high up. Station's on the second floor. Gives me a decent view of the street if I stand on a chair. About half an hour ago, I saw a figure walking down the middle of Bell Avenue, barefoot, shirtless, covered in sweat and dirt, but walking slow, real slow, like their feet hurt, or they were too tired to lift their legs all the way. Their hands were slightly out in front of them, like they were balancing. They didn't look drunk or scared. They looked distracted, like they were focused on something only they could hear. They stopped at the intersection, turned toward the west, and just stood there. I didn't see them leave. I still don't know where all the cars went. There should be abandoned vehicles everywhere, right? But they're not. The streets aren't clogged. They're just empty. Like people vanished before they even got in their cars, or they never tried to leave at all. Whatever this is, it doesn't panic people. Not right away. It slows them down, makes them drift, forget, go quiet. It's the silence that tells you who's next. I'm going to read something now. A letter. I found it stuffed through the mail slot this morning. No envelope. Just one sheet of paper, written in blue ink. Neat cursive writing. I don't know who left it. Here's what it said. Logan, we listen to you every night. There's 4 of us left in the apartments on 4th. We've sealed the doors, but we can still smell it through the pipes. Jenny hasn't spoken since Friday. We don't think she's infected, but something's wrong. She sits in the tub and watches the faucet. We took out the batteries from the smoke alarms because they kept beeping for no reason. There's mold in the corners now. White and thin, almost like hair. Please keep broadcasting. Even when it's bad, even when there's nothing left to say, just knowing someone else is awake helps. If you're out there, I hear you. I'm not shutting this mic off until I have no choice, not until the gas runs out, not until the air stops moving in here. This is Logan Cross on 105.7 FM. The generator's steady for now. I'll be back when I can. If you hear anything at all, leave it at the station door. Slide it through the mail slot. Use a pen, not a phone. Phones are dead things now. Hold on. Please, just hold on. It's 9:32 p.m. Logan Cross, still broadcasting on 105.7 FM, if this thing's even reaching anyone anymore. If you're hearing this, you're either close enough to pick it up, or you're one of the lucky few who still has something that runs on batteries. Either way, I'm here. Something changed about 20 minutes ago. I don't know how to explain it. The temperature's still high, feels like low 90s in here, but there's this pressure in the air now, like before a thunderstorm. That kind of tightness you feel behind your eyes. You keep waiting for the crack of lightning, the rain to start tapping at the glass, but nothing comes. Just that wait. I stepped out into the hallway for a second, just to stretch. I heard something, like a scrape, like someone dragging their hand across the brick wall outside the building. Slow, not fast, not violent, just slow. As if they weren't in a hurry, as if they knew I was listening. I didn't look out the window. I didn't need to. Earlier tonight, I opened the emergency band on the receiver, trying to pull in any signal, any transmission, anything that sounded like human life. I caught a weak frequency out of Amarillo, barely audible. A woman's voice. She said, "We lost contact with Fort Leonard Wood 3 hours ago. Last transmission mentioned surface contamination. No response since." And then static. I've been thinking about that word, contamination. Makes it sound like a spill, like you can clean it up with gloves and bleach. But I think it's deeper than that. I think we're past containment. This isn't a chemical leak or a lab mishap. This is something alive, and it doesn't want to kill us. It wants us quiet. Caleb, if you're still out there, I heard your last transmission. Thank you for confirming what I was afraid to believe. The infection doesn't just spread through breath. It changes the brain, alters behavior slowly. You said something in your last broadcast about mycelial mimicry, about how this fungus doesn't just colonize cells, it copies neural patterns. That's why people don't scream. That's why they don't thrash or fight. They're still there somewhere, but overwritten, replaced slowly, like a program updating itself, one line of code at a time. Maybe that's what happened to Jenny in the tub. I've got another letter. This one was taped to the back door, written in black marker on cardboard, smelled like gasoline. It says, "Logan, we tried to burn one, not a person, a patch, growing on the trees behind the fairgrounds. It pulsed when we touched it. I swear to God, it moved. When we lit it, it screamed. Not with a mouth, not like a person. The air screamed. My teeth hurt from the sound. We ran. There are no birds here anymore. Just silence." Eric, Zone 5. Zone 5. That's the city emergency grid map, north of the river. That's where the shelters were supposed to be. If Eric made it out, then the shelters didn't hold. I haven't seen a single emergency vehicle since Friday. Not one. I walked up to the roof this morning, got the solar panel flipped to try charging the weather radio, and scanned the horizon. No smoke, no sirens, just stillness. Even the wind stopped. I used to think apocalypse would be loud. Fires, screams, explosions. But this is quiet, like the world's exhaling, like it got tired of us talking and decided to mute the channel. A kid knocked on the station door this afternoon. I didn't open it. I couldn't. But he slid a paper under the door, folded 3 times. I could hear him breathing on the other side, fast, scared. He didn't speak. The paper said, "My mom isn't moving anymore. She's still breathing, but she won't talk, won't blink. Her eyes are open all the time. I don't know if she can hear me. I'm scared. I don't want to be next." No name, no return address. Just that. I left a bottle of water and some protein bars in a plastic bag outside the door. When I checked 10 minutes later, they were gone. Kid, if you're still listening, come back tomorrow. I'll leave more. Please don't go quiet. I got a message, scrawled on the station's whiteboard out front. Someone must have walked up while I was on air and written it. They're gathering at the mall, not shopping, just standing. Maybe 50 people. Nobody talking. Nobody moving. I don't know how to make sense of that. If they're still breathing, if they're still alive, why aren't they speaking? Why aren't they reacting? Are they waiting for something? Is the fungus inside them watching through them? Caleb said the fungus responds to sound, that it listens, that the more you speak, the more it learns. If that's true, what does that make me? What does that make this broadcast? I don't know if I'm helping anymore or feeding it. But I won't stop. Not yet. I'm tired. I can feel it in my hands, in my eyes. Like sleep isn't rest anymore, just a pause before more dread. I haven't heard music in days, haven't wanted to hear it. It feels wrong now, like pretending nothing's wrong. I miss voices, normal voices, people laughing, people cursing traffic, people calling in with dumb jokes and weird local rumors. I miss all of that. All I have now are scraps. I'm going to try something tonight. I'm going to leave the recorder running. Just for an hour. Let it tape the room. Maybe there's something in the silence I'm not catching with my ears. Maybe something's breathing with me. Maybe it already is. If you hear this broadcast, leave something, anything. Write it down. Burn it into wood. Say your name. Let me know you're out there. We have to keep talking even if no one's answering. We have to stay human. I'll check back in before midnight. If the generator holds. If my voice holds. If I do. It's 11:07 p.m. Still Logan. Still 105.7 FM. The generator hiccuped about 15 minutes ago. Lights flickered, fan cut out. Fridge gave up for about 4 seconds. I stared at the board the whole time, waiting to see which red light would go out first. None did. Not yet. But the hum isn't steady anymore. It's coughing, like it's out of breath, like it's been breathing spores too. The hallway smells worse now. There's a kind of syrupy thickness in the air, hard to describe, like when fruit goes bad, but without the sharp rot, almost sweet. I keep thinking about what Caleb said, how the fungus isn't passive, how it responds to the environment. Is it doing this on purpose? Is it trying to draw us out? I took a break an hour ago to check the rooftop again. There's something growing up there. I don't remember seeing it this morning, but now it's there. Pale, like stretched cotton, clinging to the outer corner where the gutter drains. And it's not dry. It moves a little in the wind. But the wind's not strong enough for that. It's breathing. I backed off quick. Didn't touch it. I don't know if it's trying to reach the solar panel or if it's just following the moisture from the roof. Either way, it's claiming space now. I think the building's infected. I haven't seen another person all day. That kid never came back. I waited until sundown before checking the bag by the door. Still full. Still sitting there. No footprints. No note. Just silence. Earlier I picked up something strange on the scanner. I was sweeping through channels when I caught a faint pulse, barely audible, but rhythmic. Not a voice, not music, just a slow tone. 4 clicks, then silence, then 4 clicks again. I timed it. It repeated every 23 seconds. Could be a beacon. Could be a loop from an abandoned outpost. Or it could be something else. Something not human. I don't know. But it's still going. Right now. On Yuzkirk Yedinokta Iki UHF. If anyone knows what it means, let me know, because I don't like how steady it is. Nothing that steady comes from this world anymore. I've been thinking about what this thing actually wants, what it's doing to people. I used to think infection meant pain, fever, convulsions, something violent. But this doesn't scream. It doesn't rip or tear. It invites. It quiets. It hushes. People just stop. I read a report once, years ago, about a fungus that infects ants, cordyceps. It doesn't kill them right away. It gets inside, rewires them, makes them climb, makes them bite down on a branch and hold, and then it grows out of them, bursts through the head. Nature doesn't need cruelty. It just needs function. What if that's what's happening now? What if this thing doesn't hate us? What if it's just using us? What if the silence isn't a symptom? It's the goal. Someone left another note. This one was shoved into the chain link fence around the lot behind the station. I found it while I was dragging the last of the fuel canisters inside. Church on 9th is full, not of people, of noise. Someone locked a radio in the bell tower, blasting static. It's been going for 2 days. Nobody goes near it. The infected don't cross the street. We think the sound keeps them away. But it's breaking the rest of us. We can't sleep. We don't know what to do. I know that church. White brick, green trim, big cross on the roof. I drive by it every time I head east toward the highway. I haven't heard the static. Not from here. But maybe I will. Maybe I should go there. Maybe that's where the answers are hiding. But the generator, the station, the door, I can't leave it unguarded. This voice, this frequency, might be the only thing keeping someone out there human. You, listening right now. Yeah, you. If you're nodding along, if you're writing this down, if you're trying to remember how it felt to be alive and not just functional, then this voice is for you. We need each other, even through static, even through dead air, even when there's no reply. There's more. At 10:41, I heard banging. 2 knocks. Then nothing. Then 3 knocks. It wasn't at the front door. It was from the basement. There's only one way in or out down there. A storm hatch. Heavy. Bolted shut since last winter when the rain came down too fast and flooded the stairwell. I checked the locks, still sealed. But the sound was real. And the worst part? I think I heard breathing after. Not loud, not gasping, just presence. Like someone on the other side, listening. I haven't gone down yet. I don't know if I will. Not tonight. I keep thinking about how it spreads, about how it doesn't need to be loud. What if it's already in here? What if it's just waiting? I'm going to try to sleep. I'll set an alarm for 2 a.m., just long enough to rest my eyes. The mic will stay live. If you hear something strange, if I talk in a voice that doesn't sound like me, don't trust it. Write it down, play it back, and don't answer. This is Logan Cross, 105.7 FM, somewhere between the hum and the hiss. Stay awake, stay human. I'll see you on the other side of sleep. It's 2:27 a.m. I didn't sleep. I laid down in the booth, left the recorder on, tried to let my eyes shut. But my body wouldn't let go. Every time I drifted, my ears would twitch like a dog's. Some part of me waiting for a sound I didn't want to hear. The basement knocks didn't come again. But the static did. Different this time. The receiver picked up a signal I haven't heard before. On 94.3 FM, which should have been dead. That was an old jazz station back in the day. Shut down 2 years ago. But tonight, it came alive. Low hum. Then a voice. Not a broadcast voice, not clear, like someone whispering through layers of fog. It said one word, over and over, real slow, paused between each time. Join. Again. Join. I let it play for a minute before cutting power to the antenna. I don't know what freaked me out more, that it was real, or that some part of me didn't want to turn it off. There's a rhythm to this silence. I'm noticing that now. A pattern. Certain frequencies are clean. Others start to hiss when I speak too long, like something pushing back through the waves. Maybe it hears me. Maybe I'm not broadcasting into empty space. Maybe I'm talking to it. I lit a candle about an hour ago. Small one. Vanilla scented. I found it in the break room cabinet next to some expired canned soup and half a bottle of ibuprofen. I didn't realize how much I missed light that flickers. Electric light is too smooth, too even. It doesn't breathe. This candle, it dances. Like it's trying to tell me something without words. I watched it for 20 straight minutes. I'm starting to understand how people go quiet, not because they want to, but because the noise stops making sense. Words feel heavy, like they don't connect the same anymore, like the meanings are slipping sideways. I read a short message someone wrote in chalk on the sidewalk outside the Walgreens down the road. It said, "We don't lose our minds, we give them away." I think that's what scares me most. Not that we'll die, but that we'll stop caring. Stop resisting. Stop trying to speak. I still haven't gone into the basement. I don't plan to, not unless I have to. But I did open the second floor window for the first time in 2 days. Just a crack. Just to let some of the humidity out. It smelled worse outside than in. Like mushrooms soaked in milk. But I heard something too. There's movement on the railroad tracks. That line hasn't run since the power grid collapsed 3 days ago. No trains, no lights, but someone or something is out there. I heard the rocks shifting, then a soft scrape, then nothing. This world's become a museum at night. Every sound is an exhibit. You lean in to listen, not sure if you're going to learn something or lose a piece of yourself. A woman named Nora called into the station once, back when this thing was just starting. She worked at a lab in Austin, said she'd seen something blooming under a microscope, said the spores didn't just grow, they learned. She swore she watched one change shape when exposed to sound waves, high frequency, barely audible to the human ear. It moved like it didn't like being seen. That call, cut off mid-sentence, never got her back on the line. But I remember her voice. Nervous. Not scared yet. Just cracking. I wonder what happened to her. I wonder what she sees now when she looks outside. I wrote a list tonight. First one in days. Used to write lists every morning. Things to do, people to call, errands to run. Felt like progress. This one's different. Things I know are still real. My own breath. The hum of the generator. The candle's flame. The feel of the mic under my fingers. The silence between knocks. That's it. Everything else is fog. This building creaks like it's alive. The metal roof expands and contracts in the heat. Pipes groan even though no one's used the water in days. But that's normal, right? That's how buildings sound when they're settling. Except this one doesn't settle. It shifts, like it's listening. Like something's crawling inside the drywall, just slow enough to avoid being heard. I've started whispering more. Not because I'm scared, but because it feels like yelling would wake something up. I found a voicemail saved on the hardline system. Buried deep. Time-stamped 2 days ago. Voice sounds like it's from a payphone. If those even still work. It said, "He's still sitting in the truck. Hasn't moved since noon. Just stares ahead. Air's thick with spores. We tried to pull him out. He bit Jordan. Didn't scream. Didn't fight. Just bit. Then sat back down." It didn't say where. Didn't say who left the message. But I saved it. Played it back 4 times. The voice had this calm terror. That's the worst kind. Not panic, but understanding. Like they finally got it. This is a takeover. Slow, careful, almost gentle, but total. I'm not going to pretend I have a plan. I don't. I'm tired and scared, and I miss the sound of someone else breathing in the same room as me. But I'm still here, and this signal still works, and that means something, doesn't it? Even if no one answers, even if it's just my voice bouncing off the inside of a dead city, at least it's bouncing. That means there's still air, still space, still time. This is Logan Cross, 105.7 FM. If you're awake, stay that way. I'll talk to you again at dawn, if the world still holds. It's 4:04 a.m. Still Logan. Still 105.7. The power blinked again. Whole station dropped for 3 seconds. Generator didn't cut out. It's the wiring. Old breakers. Fried relays. This place was never meant to run 24/7 without the grid behind it. I've shut off the fridge. No use pretending anything in there's good now. Meat's bad. Milk's warm. I tossed it all into the stairwell earlier, hoping the heat and smell would at least convince whatever's under the basement not to come up here. The canned food's still good. Got about 10 cans left. Beans, corn, 1 can of peaches. I'm saving that one for a real bad day. A day when I stop remembering what sweet tastes like. The silence outside's different now. Not still, not dead, just waiting. There's a texture to it, like the whole city's holding its breath. No birds, no bugs, no dogs barking in the distance. Just the faint crackle of heat against glass, and that soft, far-off crunch, like dry leaves under slow feet. I haven't looked outside in over an hour. I don't want to see what's moving out there. I know something is. It's not panic anymore. not screaming or running. That all stopped days ago. Now it's a kind of migration. Drifting bodies, staring eyes, open mouths. Some walking barefoot through streets that used to pulse with life. They don't moan. They don't shout. They just watch, like they're still in there, but muted. Like someone's holding down the volume button inside their skulls, and it's stuck halfway down. I got another message, scrawled in charcoal on a torn piece of cardboard, left right outside the booth, which means someone got into the station. The locks are still on, doors sealed, but someone was in here. Here's what it said. We listened to you from the old library basement. 5 of us now. One left this morning. Said she heard something calling. Not a voice, a feeling. We didn't stop her. You're the only voice that still sounds human. Keep speaking. I don't know how to feel about that. I'm glad someone's hearing me. But the fact that someone got this close, and I didn't hear them, that means either I'm slipping, or they didn't want to be heard. I checked the locks again. Nothing broken. But I found a smudge on the glass of the back stairwell. Pale, finger-shaped, like someone pressed a damp hand there, then walked away. I left it. Proof. Proof that someone was here and left me alive. Why? There's something changing in me too. I can feel it. I'm not sick, not coughing, not drifting, but I'm hearing things, like faint whispers under the white noise, like old radio signals bouncing off nothing and coming back twisted. Last night I thought I heard someone say my name. Not a recording, not memory. Now I turned every dial, scanned every band. Nothing there, but the voice. It was mine. Not a copy, not a playback. My voice, like it was being echoed by something that didn't fully understand what it meant. Just repeating, like it liked the shape of it. Logan. That's all it said, over and over. I unplugged everything for 30 minutes, sat in the booth with no power, no light, just the dark and the ticking of my own heartbeat. It didn't stop. That's how I know it wasn't the station. I think the fungus is learning, adapting, copying. First it copied behavior, stillness, silence. Now it's trying out words. Next, maybe it'll try meaning. There's a man living in the back of a box truck 2 blocks from here. He leaves me notes sometimes, slides them under the alley gate, always written on receipts. Today's one said, "They don't come near my truck. I filled the tires with vinegar. I don't know if that helps, but the smell makes them back off. I've been recording them at night. The ones that stand still, they hum, all together. Not a song, just frequency, like they're syncing. I don't know your name, truck guy, but thank you. I think you're onto something. Syncing. That explains what I've been hearing. The weird radio pulses, the steady hums on dead bands. It's not interference. It's communication. They're talking to each other. Not with words, with frequency. That's why they gather at malls, churches, public buildings, places with old speakers, broken intercoms, wiring in the walls. They're using us, using our infrastructure, hijacking what we left behind, turning it into a hive. That's what this is, a hive, with a shared mind and a shared goal. Silence, obedience, stillness. I can't shake the feeling that this place, this booth, this microphone, it's like shouting into the mouth of something bigger than I can see. Something that's leaning in closer every time I speak. But I'll keep doing it. Because silence means surrender. And I'm not ready for that. Not yet. This is Logan Cross. Still breathing, still fighting, still speaking. I'll be back before sunrise. If you're still human, hold the line. 5:58 a.m. Sun's not up yet, but I can feel it trying. This is Logan Cross, and I haven't slept. Again. Not really. I close my eyes. Yeah. I lie down, but the inside of my head doesn't turn off. It just reruns the same flickering thoughts on a loop, like a scratched DVD. A candle, a face, a faint knock, a whisper, the hum of something learning how to listen. I think the power lines are humming again. I know the grid's supposed to be down, has been for days, but there's something in the air, a subtle vibration. You only notice it if you sit still long enough. But it's there, like the air's holding a signal too faint to hear but too strong to ignore. The world used to run on noise, little noises, constant, forgettable ones, buzz of traffic, air conditioning, door chimes, notification dings. And now, when I hear anything, even a creak from upstairs, it lands like a thunderclap. It's not the lack of noise that scares me. It's how quickly I've gotten used to it. Last night, during one of those half-sleep blackouts, I had a dream, or a memory maybe, of the cafeteria at Westmont Elementary. I hadn't thought about that place in 20 years. But in the dream, I was sitting there alone. No lunch tray, just silence. And I could feel something moving behind the walls. Not watching, not hunting, just breathing, like the building had lungs now. I woke up drenched in sweat. My throat hurt. I hadn't spoken for hours, but it felt raw, like I'd been yelling into something that wouldn't echo back. The fungus, I don't know what else to call it anymore, isn't just in the trees, or the bodies. It's in everything now. The air, the drywall, the spaces between machines. I scraped some off the rooftop this morning. That white fuzz from yesterday, it's thicker now, feels like wet felt. Clings to your skin when you touch it, like it doesn't want to let go. I put some in a jar, sealed it tight, left it in the break room fridge just before I shut the power off. If I don't make it, maybe someone else can study it. Figure out how it breathes, how it thinks. Because I swear it's thinking. It doesn't kill like a fire or a flood. It waits, watches. It wants you to sit still. That's the trick. If you sit too long, if you go quiet for too long, that's when it moves. There was a woman outside the station this morning, just standing, barefoot, shirt torn at the shoulder. I don't know how long she'd been there before I saw her. Could have been hours. She wasn't moving, just facing the wall. Her head tilted slightly toward the window like she was listening through the glass. I almost spoke, almost opened the door. But then she twitched. Not a shiver, not a nervous tick. A twitch. Like a puppet whose string got yanked too hard. Her hand moved up, real slow, until her fingers touched the side of the brick. And then she started tapping. One tap, pause, 2 taps, longer pause, 1 more tap. It wasn't random. I swear it wasn't. I recorded it, played it back, and the second time, I swear I heard something else respond. Not from outside, but from the floor beneath me. There's something under the building. or in it, and it's learning to answer. I moved the generator into the booth with me. Took me 30 minutes. Had to disconnect half the cabling and wheel it across the office floor. But I needed to know it was close, that I'd hear it if it started to die. I don't trust the walls anymore. Not since I found the mold behind the filing cabinet. Same texture as the stuff from the rooftop, but blacker, denser. It had grown around the power strip, wrapped through the cords like it was feeding. No scorch marks, but the plastic was warped, like heat had passed through it from the inside. I ripped it out, sprayed the whole area with bleach. A lot of good that'll do. I can't stay here much longer. I know that now. But I don't know where else to go. The city's hollowed out. The roads are silent. The air buzzes faintly, like it's full of static you can't hear, unless you close your eyes. And worse, people are still moving, not many, but enough. Not talking, not looking for food, just walking, slowly, purposefully, toward something. I think it's a signal, not a metaphorical one. An actual signal, a tone, a call. Someone sent in a report, handwritten, dropped off in a sealed Tupperware container at the edge of the parking lot. They're going into the stadium now, the one on Monroe. At least 100 people. We followed from a distance. They don't speak, don't react, but they all go inside. Not all come back out. And when they do, their skin's lighter, their mouths are open, and they walk straighter. That's what did it for me. That's when I knew this isn't a sickness. It's conversion. They're being changed. From the inside out. I don't think there's a cure. I don't even think there's a point in trying to find one. Because I don't think it's something you fight. It's something you resist. With your voice, your memory, your motion. I'm going to keep talking, as long as this mic works. As long as there's fuel. As long as my tongue still moves. Because silence? That's how it wins. This is Logan Cross. Still awake. Still me. Still here. 7:02 a.m. The sun is up, but it's gray. Not cloud gray. Not storm gray. Just faded. Like the light forgot how to be warm. Like it's passing through something that's dulling it before it reaches us. The color outside isn't right. The trees look pale. Not dead. Not yellowed from heat. Just bleached. Like the green's been washed out of the leaves. I'm still inside the booth. Haven't stepped out since before dawn. I keep the door closed now, just in case. A few minutes ago, I heard something rattle the front gate, like hands grabbing the metal and shaking it just once. Not trying to get in, just enough to let me know they were there. And then, silence again. That kind of silence isn't absence. It's intention. There are too many reports now. Too many notes. People are seeing the same thing in different towns. I got one from a couple in Stillwater. They wrote that the fungus is showing up in patterns, not random mold, not chaos. It's growing in rings, symmetrical, always on metal, always circling outward, like it's listening for something. Another from someone up in Claremore. They say the local radio station up there has been hijacked. Nothing but low tones. A voice sometimes, speaking syllables that don't belong to any language. At least, not one we'd recognize. They said the voice repeats names, over and over. Names of people they knew. Names of people who'd already gone quiet. One woman, Michelle, said the voice said her own name before she turned the radio off. If that's true, if it's naming us, that means it knows more than we think. There's something I haven't told you. Last night, around 3:15, I blacked out for about 10 minutes. I was sitting upright, mic on, just reading a message someone left in the stairwell. The next thing I knew, I was standing by the back window, hand on the glass. No memory of getting up, no memory of moving. And outside, someone was looking back at me. Or not someone. Their eyes were open, but their head was tilted just wrong, like their spine had forgotten how to be a spine. Their mouth was open, but not breathing, just waiting. Like they'd followed me into that blackout, like they knew I'd be there. I dropped to the floor, stayed there until the window was empty again. It didn't move like a person. It waited like a predator. I think the fungus is learning how to bait us, not by fear, by recognition. The voices we remember, the faces we trust, the names we answer to. That's how it's getting in. It makes you comfortable first, then quiet, then gone. I've started writing things on my arm, just in case I lose time again, just in case I forget. Simple stuff. You are Logan. Do not stop talking. Do not listen to your own voice on the radio. Do not follow the whispers. Stay human. It helps. A little. I'm going to play back a recording I made about an hour ago. I left the handheld mic running when I stepped into the stairwell to refill the water can. When I came back, it had caught something. Listen, a moment of recorded sound. Faint. There's breathing, not mine. Too slow, too close to the mic. Then, under it, just barely audible, a voice. One word, close. That's all. I've run it through filters, amplifiers. Same result. One voice. Not mine. And it's in here. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Not because I'm giving up, but because I think it's starting to find me. And I need to stay ahead. I need to stay louder than the silence. There's an old CB radio under the desk. I've had it unplugged for years. Might still work if I hook it to the antenna relay. I'm thinking about using it to send out a burst message. Non-stop Morse. See if anyone responds. See if there's still a pattern out there that isn't fungal. Because if this thing really is hijacking the airwaves, then maybe we can hijack them back. I'm going to try and set it up before noon. If you hear rapid dots and dashes on 118.3 megahertz, that's me. Or it was. Someone in Tulsa said they're digging trenches, not to defend, not to hide, to burn. They're burying the infected in lime and diesel, then lighting the whole pit. Says the fire burns hotter than any forest fire they've seen. But the fungus doesn't scream anymore. It just hisses, like steam, like it expected it, like fire's just another phase of its cycle. I don't know if that means it's losing or winning, but I know this. They want us quiet. They want us still. They want us alone. So speak, shout, whisper. Tap the mic 3 times and wait for it to come back. If it does, run. If it doesn't, speak again. This is Logan Cross. This voice is still mine, and I'll keep talking until the walls echo back something human. 9:11 a.m. Logan Cross. Still here. Still speaking. Still fighting the pressure to just stop. The candle I lit last night is long dead. Nothing left but a puddle of wax on the side of the desk. I've been scratching little notches into the wood with the edge of a paperclip. One for each hour I've stayed awake. 18 notches. Every time I try to lie down, something shifts in the air, like the fungus can feel it, like my heartbeat slows just enough for it to start pushing against the edges of me. It's in the building now. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean literally. I opened the supply closet on the north wall and found the baseboards soft, soaked through with that same white fuzz. It's thin, but it's spreading. Along the cracks, through the insulation, along the wires. I followed one line from the fuse box. The mold's crawling straight down the conduit toward the broadcast panel. It knows where the voice comes from. It's aiming for the mic. The outside world has gone full dream mode now. I saw a line of people walking down the center of Pine Street earlier. 15, maybe 20 bodies, all moving at the same slow pace. No shoes, no noise. They weren't staggering. That's not how this works. They were deliberate. Their eyes were open, not white, not bloodshot. Just open, focused on something I couldn't see. Every few steps, one would stop, turn their head slightly, like they were listening, then move again. That's the pattern. Movement, pause, movement again. They don't talk, but they're not deaf. I think they're tuned. Someone left a walkie-talkie on the station doorstep, taped to a plastic jug of clean water. No note. I powered it on. It was locked on channel 3. All I heard was static and breathing. Heavy. Rhythmic. Not mine. I said hello into it. The breathing paused, then continued. I turned it off. Threw it in the freezer, just in case. A man named Drew called the station 5 days ago. Told me he was holed up in a mechanic's garage near Bartlesville. Said the mold was feeding off car batteries. Said he caught one of the infected lying underneath a sedan, just lying there, hand resting on the battery casing. Said its mouth was open like it was absorbing the hum of the idle power. I didn't believe him then. I do now. The fungus is attracted to sound, but it's also feeding off energy. Vibrations, electrical flow, even thoughts. You ever sit in a room and feel like someone's about to talk but no one does? That's what it feels like in here now. Like something's holding its breath, just waiting for me to stop. Like it's inches away from whispering in my own voice. I've started writing everything down twice. One version for the air. One version for me, in case something gets replaced. I scratched a message into the floor beneath the mic. If this voice changes, do not trust it. My own handwriting, all caps, deep enough to feel with my fingers. I'm leaving these clues like breadcrumbs for a future version of me that might wake up and not remember who I am. Is that paranoia? Or is it defense? There's a woman I keep hearing about. Different names and different reports. Same description. Red jacket, long dark hair, quiet, watches from across the street, doesn't blink, doesn't move, always just outside. I've seen her too, from the second floor window, around 6:30 this morning. She stood beside the old mailbox across the lot, hands at her side, not swaying in the wind, not adjusting to the heat, just standing. When I looked away and looked back, she was gone. But there was a handprint on the mailbox, pale, long fingers, Same as the smudge on my back stairwell window. Is she following the broadcasts or delivering them? There's a line from a letter someone slid through the gate last night. I keep rereading it. We thought the silence was mercy, but it's control. That's it. That's the whole letter. But it hit me hard. This thing, this infection, it isn't loud for a reason. It doesn't want panic. It wants consent, compliance. It wants you to think stillness is safety. It wants you to sit quietly in the dark and wait. Wait for what? For it to finish. For it to rewrite what you are. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm reinforcing the windows with sheet metal. I'm rewiring the old PA system so it loops a high-frequency tone every hour. I'm recording my voice on a dozen mini-tapes and hiding them throughout the station. If I go quiet, if I change, there'll still be echoes of the real me, of this voice, because I am not giving it the last word. This is Logan Cross. If you're still human, find something to say. Say it. Loud. Even if it's just a name. Even if it's just your name. Say it until something in the dark tells you to stop. And then say it again. 11:49 a.m. Logan Cross. Still broadcasting from 105.7 FM. Still surrounded by things that don't speak. Still pressing my fingers against this mic like it's a lifeline and not just a coil of wire wrapped around dead air. I just spent the last half hour scrubbing the inside of the booth walls with peroxide. The mold got in. I don't know how. Maybe through the AC unit before I sealed it. Maybe on my shoes. Maybe on my skin. It started as tiny pinpricks. Just a few specks of off-white near the baseboards. Now it's a trail. Thin, web-like strands crawling behind the soundproofing foam, like roots growing toward my voice. I scraped off what I could, but it's still in the corners, spreading slow, steady, patient. I can't stop it, but I can slow it down. I've been boiling water, bleaching surfaces, keeping the air dry. None of it feels like enough. But doing something is the only thing keeping me from sitting in a chair and stopping. Because that's what it wants. Stillness. Someone, I don't know who, spray painted a message outside the station last night. Bright red, big letters across the pavement. The silent are listening. I read that and felt my stomach drop, because that's exactly what it feels like now. Like the quiet people, the ones who've already gone still, aren't just gone. They're watching. They're hearing. They're letting the fungus speak through them. Not with sound, but with presence. I saw one today, a boy, maybe 10 years old, walking down the center line of Highway 75. No shoes, no expression, a smear of white on his cheek. He wasn't crying, wasn't looking for help. He was humming. Not a song, not something human. Just a tone. Low, repetitive, steady. When I turned off the mic to listen, I realized it was the same rhythm I'd been picking up on the dead bands last week. He was broadcasting, with his mouth. I watched from the roof. Didn't move, didn't speak. I just watched until he passed out of view. I don't know what that means, but I know I don't want to hear that sound again. I've started plugging my ears when I sleep, if you can call it sleep. It's more like blinking slower than usual. The dreams are different now. Last night, I was in the booth. Except there was no mic, no walls, no ceiling, just the chair, and the hum and a dozen figures standing in the dark around me, all of them breathing in sync. Not loud, not angry, just steady, like waves on a shore that doesn't exist anymore. I woke up with blood in my nose. I've never had nosebleeds before. Maybe it's the air. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's something else. I think the fungus can hear thought. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean it. I think that's what the infected are doing when they stand still with their mouths open. I think they're listening, not with ears, but with something deeper. A resonance, like a tuning fork for consciousness. And if that's true, then we're not just dealing with a biological threat. We're dealing with a cognitive one, something that doesn't just want our bodies, or even our silence. It wants entry. It wants to wear us from the inside out. And the moment you go still, the moment you stop resisting, it steps in. That's why I keep talking. Not for you, not anymore, but for me. Because this voice, the sound of my own breath in the space between words, is the last thing that tells me I'm not already one of them. I scratched another message into the booth wall. If you're not sure it's you, speak louder. The walls feel closer now. Not like they're closing in, like they're listening, waiting. So I'll keep going, because I'd rather go down screaming than drift into whatever still, open-mouthed purgatory they've prepared for the rest of us. This is Logan Cross. Keep talking, keep moving, because silence is where it begins, and stillness is how it ends. 1:06 p.m., Logan Cross, 105.7 FM. This voice is still mine, I think. I'm not so sure anymore. I just played back a recording from last night, one I left running while I slept. It caught breathing, not surprising, but then it caught a voice, a whisper, real close to the mic. I thought it was me, but I didn't say what it said. I didn't say, "We're inside now." I've been listening to it on loop for the last 15 minutes. The voice is flat, not angry, not urgent, just certain. We're inside now. Not I, not he, we. Like it's already plural, like it never needed to be alone. I haven't let the tape run again. I don't want to hear what comes next. The hallway outside the booth smells worse today, like wet stone and rot. I opened the second-floor window for air, immediately regretted it. The outside smells like dirt, but not normal dirt, not the earthy, fresh-cut grass kind, more like old basements and body heat, like the underside of a soaked mattress left in a ditch. The heat isn't breaking. Feels like over 100 now. I'm sweating through my shirt, even with the fan on. But I'm keeping the windows sealed. The spores ride the air. They ride us. I got another message, scratched into a cafeteria tray someone shoved through the mailbox slot. We tried silence, didn't help. We tried shouting, made them come. What worked was rhythm, drums, repetition. Like tricking it into thinking we were already part of the hive. But one of us slipped, broke the pattern. It knew. I believe it. The infected, if you can even call them that anymore, don't respond to noise the way animals do. They don't chase sound. They recognize it. They read it. And if it doesn't match what they understand, they come, not to attack. To correct. It's not violence. It's assimilation. They want us to fit. I saw it happen about an hour ago. Someone ran into the street, shouting. A woman, barefoot, screaming a name, over and over. Ethan! I watched from the roof. The group on the sidewalk, 5, maybe 6 infected, turned at the same time. Not slowly. Instantly. Like their bodies were triggered by the word. They walked toward her. Not fast, not angry. Just inevitable. She froze. 1 foot halfway turned. And then she stopped screaming. Mid-word. Just stopped. And stood. Arms at her side. Mouth slightly open. Like the signal had found her. Like the noise had been overwritten. The infected didn't touch her. They just stood there. With her. Like they were already one voice. I watched for 20 minutes. None of them moved. Eventually, I stopped watching. The tape I found in the back room this morning had a note on it. Do not play unless it's the end. I haven't played it yet. I want to, but I won't. Not until I can't think straight. Not until I start forgetting how to finish my own sentences. Because maybe that's the real test. Memory, language, refusal. Every hour I speak, I remember I'm still me. That's all we have left now. Not guns, not fuel, not bunkers. Names, voices. The ability to say, this is who I am, and I do not consent. The fungal growth in the stairwell is bigger, almost a foot wide now, curling outward in spirals, like a mouth mid-word. I don't step past it. I don't feed it sound. I write everything I need on scraps now when I go downstairs, just in case. Someone asked me once, what's the last thing I'd say if I knew I'd go quiet? I used to joke, say something dramatic, say something poetic. Now, it'd be this. Don't trust the still ones, because they're listening, because they remember, and because if you stop moving, stop speaking, you become one of them. This is Logan Cross. If you're breathing, if you're hurting, if you're confused, speak. Even if your voice is shaking, especially if it's shaking. That's how you know it's still yours. 2:52 p.m. There's a strange calm today. Not peace. Don't mistake it for that. Peace is something you earn. This is the stillness of something watching you from the woods, hidden, unseen, not ready to pounce but too curious to let you walk away. I've been sitting here, staring at the patch of wall where the mold first bloomed. It's not white anymore. It's taken on a hue I can't name. Not green, not black. Almost iridescent in the right angle of sunlight, like the underside of an oil slick. It grows in loops now. Perfect, swirling loops like the edge of a fingerprint, except I don't think it's copying us anymore. I think it's expressing itself. I think it's writing. I haven't moved from the booth in 3 hours. Not because I'm afraid to, but because every time I shift, every time I speak too loudly, I feel the air change, like the room exhales with me, like the fungus is listening, not just hearing, listening. There's a difference, right? We all hear things, dogs barking, fans humming, radios skipping between stations. But listening, that's an act, that's a choice. And I think this thing chooses what to respond to, chooses who to respond to. I talk every day. My voice goes out across the static, over dying fences and through half-dead machines. And something has decided to let me keep going. Maybe it's curious. Maybe it's amused. Or maybe it wants to know what kind of man burns himself out in the dark, just to prove he still knows his own name. The infected have changed. It's not just the silence anymore. They've stopped walking aimlessly. They move together now, not marching, not even coordinated. It's more like driftwood caught in the same tide. I watched from the roof again this morning, eyes blurry from lack of sleep and dehydration. A group passed by the old post office. Maybe 20 people, maybe more, each about 5 feet apart, all facing the same way, all blinking in unison. Not often, just once every 10 seconds or so. And every time their eyes shut, it was like a pulse went through the group. No sound, just movement, like a breath shared between them. I've never seen anything that quiet move so deliberately. It made my skin crawl. Not from fear, but from the recognition that whatever this is, it's learning, refining, organizing itself. And we're not a virus it's trying to kill. We're a shape it's trying to perfect. I found a photo this morning, wedged under the booth console. Probably fell out of a drawer weeks ago. It's of me and Jules, my sister, maybe 6 years ago, standing at the edge of a cliff in Colorado. Cold wind, both of us laughing like idiots. Her arms around my neck. My face is scrunched from the wind and from her yelling some inside joke I can't remember now. I stared at it for a long time. Not for the memory, but because I couldn't recognize my own eyes in the picture. They looked awake, unburdened, unafraid. And now I look in the mirror and see something else. I don't mean infected. I'm still clean, far as I know. But the exhaustion behind my eyes doesn't come from lack of sleep. It comes from watching the world stop speaking back. Every word I send out feels like it travels a little farther into the dark and comes back a little more warped. Like the air is thickening. Like the signal is pushing through molasses. Like the silence is fighting back. I keep having this recurring image in my head. A room with no windows, no walls, just speakers on all sides, humming the same low tone, and me in the center, trying to remember how to speak without copying what I just heard. And I don't know if it's a dream, or a warning, or something this thing is planting in me. But the more I think about it, the more I feel like it's already here. Not physically, not in my body, but in my rhythm. In the way I speak slower now, the way I pause between sentences, listening for something that isn't there. I've started recording my own voice on loops, not just the broadcasts, personal things, notes to myself, whole conversations. I play them back during the night, loud, just to drown out the other noises, just to remind the walls who they're dealing with. But last night, I swear the loop skipped, not in playback speed or quality, in words. I said something I don't remember saying, something like, "We are already part of it." My voice, my cadence, but not my memory, and it chilled me. Someone left a box outside the side door this afternoon, taped up, covered in ash, no markings. I opened it carefully, hands shaking, expecting rot or something worse. Inside were a dozen tape reels, old ones, with handwriting in red marker on each label, dates, places, times. I played the first. It was a man's voice, calm, measured. He said he was a communications officer at a decommissioned satellite station near Flagstaff. Said they picked up a pulse 6 weeks before the first silence event. Said it wasn't from Earth. I played the second tape. Same man, older now, voice cracking. Said the pulse wasn't a signal. It was permission, an opening, a welcome mat laid out across the upper atmosphere. He said, "We didn't hear it because it spoke in rhythm, not tone, but the fungus did. and it listened. I haven't played the rest yet. I don't know if I will. Maybe part of me doesn't want to confirm what I already feel in my bones, that this wasn't an accident, that the fungus wasn't born here, that it came when it was called, or worse, when we were ready. This is Logan Cross, still transmitting, still remembering, still speaking. And that's what matters. That's what holds the line. Even if the line is fraying, even if the words start sounding strange in my own mouth, if you're out there, write something. Say your name aloud. Leave a mark. Not for me, for you. Because if this thing wins, if the silence takes hold, the first thing it erases is your memory of yourself. The second is your voice. And the last is why you ever used it at all. 4:17 p.m. There's a heaviness in the air now. Not weather. Not just the heat pressing down through the ceiling tiles. It's something denser than atmosphere. Something in the quiet itself. Something that feels like the world is slowly being buried in cotton. Like the whole sky is trying to muffle what's left of us. When I open the window, even a crack, I feel it pressing against the frame. Not air, not wind, but weight. A kind of invisible pressure that doesn't move like weather does. It doesn't flow. It waits. It holds. Like the world is trying to exhale and can't remember how. I think I understand now why people stop talking. It's not because they lose the ability. It's because at some point, after the power cuts out and the streets go empty and the sky forgets how to shine, you start to feel like your voice is the only thing breaking something. Like every word you say scrapes across some invisible skin, and you start to wonder, maybe if I stay quiet, it'll go around me. Maybe if I stop moving, stop thinking, stop speaking, it won't notice I'm still alive. Maybe it's like an animal that only sees you if you breathe too loud. But then you catch your own reflection, or you hear yourself whisper your name, and something in you cracks open again and says, no, that silence isn't safety. That stillness isn't survival. It's surrender. Today I found an old cassette deck buried behind the emergency blankets in the storage closet. Heavy, metal, cracked handle. I hadn't seen one like it in years. Took me almost an hour to clean the corrosion off the contacts. But once I did, I plugged it into the broadcast relay and hit play. There was a tape already inside, hand-labeled. Field interview, patient 0. I didn't want to press play. I think some part of me knew I wouldn't like what I heard. But the truth is, I need to know. Because if this thing has a beginning, maybe it means it has an end too. The voice on the tape was clipped. Official. Some kind of military guy. He kept asking questions calmly, like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. The subject, the patient, never responded. At first I thought maybe it was a bad tape. Then I realized the subject wasn't silent. They were humming. Softly. A low, repetitive note. Exactly 110 beats per minute. Over and over. The interviewer noted that down. He said, quote, "Subject maintains eye contact for extended periods. Shows no distress. Humming continues regardless of external stimuli. When asked to identify themselves, subject taps 3 times, pauses, then taps once." That pattern again. The same one from the child on the highway, from the breathing on the walkie, from the tones in the walls. But here's the part that twisted my stomach. Around the 15-minute mark, the soldier asked the subject where they came from, and for the first time, the humming stopped. and the subject smiled and said, "We've always been here, but now you're finally listening." The tape cuts off right after that, a hard stop. No hiss, no tone, just silence. I sat with that for a long time, didn't move, didn't speak. I just stared at the wall where the mold's begun to draw its patterns, wondering if I've been talking into the dark or talking to it. The fungus in the stairwell is blooming now. That's the only word that fits. It's grown into a full pattern, circular, spiraled, almost floral. In the middle is a dark red core that pulses faintly, like it's breathing, like it's listening. I've stopped going near it. I can feel it from across the room. Not the heat or the spores, but something else, something curious. It doesn't move like an infection. It grows like a question, and I'm starting to think the answer it wants is me. I used to be a radio guy. That's all I was. Weather reports, traffic updates, morning playlists, birthdays and school closings, and the occasional weird conspiracy caller yelling about EMPs. But now, I'm something else. Now, I'm a voice at the end of a line that barely exists. A man talking to a world that forgot how to talk back. A sound that refuses to go still. But I won't stop, because I think that's what it wants. I think the fungus waits for the pause, for the gap between thoughts. That's when it moves in. That's when it replaces something. Not all at once, not with a bang, but slowly, cell by cell, word by word. That's why I keep these broadcasts running. Not because I think someone will save us, but because speaking is the last thing this thing can't replicate perfectly. It can mimic, it can echo, but it doesn't understand choice. It doesn't create, it copies. So here's my choice. I will not fall silent. I will not walk into the stadium. I will not stare at the sun with my mouth open and my eyes wide. I will not become one of them. Not while I still remember my name. Not while this mic still hums. Not while breath still rises in my chest like defiance. This is Logan Cross. And this voice is mine, even if the world forgets how to listen. 6:09 p.m. I think the sun forgot how to set properly. The sky's still glowing, but not the way it used to. No golds, no pinks. Just a thin, bruised yellow like a bad photograph, frozen mid-fade. The shadows it casts feel wrong. They fall in directions I don't trust. I watched one stretch against the side of the building this afternoon and realized it didn't match the figure casting it. It lagged, just slightly, just enough to notice. I backed away from the window, shut the curtain, and haven't looked again since. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe my eyes are going. Or maybe whatever this is, it's already playing with light the same way it's been playing with sound. I can hear it in the floors now. Not the creaks of an old building. Those I know well. These are softer, intentional. Like the kind of sound you make when you want someone to know you're nearby. Just enough pressure to let me know I'm not alone, but not enough to announce a presence fully. And that's how it works, isn't it? That's the infection's rhythm, not crashing in through windows or storming barricades. It doesn't need violence, just proximity, just patience, just silence. It waits for you to get tired, for the static to start sounding like music, for your own voice to begin to feel like someone else's. Then it slips in, quiet and slow, like humidity in your bones. The growth on the north wall, what used to be a barely visible smear, is now fully textured. It has depth now, a curl, a contour. If I stare at it long enough, I swear I can see a pattern in the tendrils, a kind of symmetry, not random, not chaos. It's designing something, communicating something, and I don't know which scares me more, that I might never understand it, or that someday I might. I've been talking less in the off hours, not by choice, just fatigue. Vocal cords tired, throat dry, tongue slower to move, but I know that's the moment when it begins to wedge itself deeper. So I force myself to whisper things between transmissions. My name. Names of people I remember. Songs from when I was a kid. Grocery lists. Anything to remind the air who I am, who I was, who I refuse to stop being. I got a letter this morning, handwritten on paper so soaked in sweat it nearly fell apart in my hands. No name, no date, just a few scrawled lines in shaky print. They don't just walk anymore. They kneel. In fields. In groups. Always facing the same way. Toward where the signal's loudest. It's like they're waiting for the next instruction. Or the next silence. I've read that line 100 times now. Waiting for the next silence. I never thought of silence as a signal. As an order. But maybe that's what it is to them. Maybe that's how it speaks. Through the absence. Through the pause. Maybe we've been trained to listen too hard for noise. And that's how it gets us. There's something I haven't said. Something I've been avoiding. Because I wasn't sure if it was real. Or if I was finally slipping. Last night, right before I nodded off, I heard someone say my name from inside the booth. Not on the radio. Not in my head, from behind me, inside the room, just once. Logan. Soft, familiar, like how Jules used to say it when she was teasing me. I spun around. Nothing there. But the candle I keep lit on the shelf? It flickered hard, nearly went out. I haven't lit it since, because I think it's drawn to warmth, to breath, to whatever it is that makes us still human. And I think it's trying to imitate it. I think it's trying to make us believe we're still in control while it gently replaces us from the inside. Not with aggression, not with violence, with mimicry, with comfort, like a song that sounds familiar, but ends a few notes too early. I don't know what day it is anymore. Doesn't matter, I guess. But for the sake of memory, because memory is the thing we must protect above all else, I think it's been 13 days since the first full signal blackout. 13 days since the last emergency alert came through. Since the last real voice besides mine answered a broadcast. Since the last time I believed there might still be a chain of command somewhere. A bunker. A strategy. Now there's just noise. Or worse, there's not even that. The fungus, the silence, the we as it likes to call itself. It isn't chaos, it's order. A terrifying, perfect, obedient order. A system where thought is synchronized, where words are no longer needed because everyone's already moving in rhythm. A world that no longer needs conversation, only compliance. And I don't think it wants to kill us. I think it wants to erase the very idea of being alone. Which sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Until you realize it means losing everything that ever made you different. Losing the sound of your laugh, the shape of your questions, the way you messed up song lyrics and sang them anyway. That's what I'm trying to preserve here. Not civilization, not society. Just difference. Just that tiny wedge of defiance that says, I do not walk in step. I do not kneel on command. I do not echo unless I choose to. So if you hear this, speak. Doesn't have to be profound. doesn't even have to make sense. Just make it yours. This is Logan Cross. Still here, still stubborn, still wrong in all the right ways. 8:41 p.m. The daylight finally gave out. The sky didn't darken so much as it receded, like the light was pulled away, retracted from the surface like a low tide leaving behind a husk of warmth. There wasn't a sunset, just a dimming, a retreat. The world around me is gray now, shadows without edges, rooms without depth. I used to think darkness was the enemy. Now I know better. Darkness doesn't press against the windows like this, doesn't listen. Darkness has no shape. This does. I haven't spoken aloud for nearly 2 hours. Not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to know what silence really sounds like now. What kind of world breathes when I don't. I turned off the recorder, powered down the antenna, sat in this booth with my legs crossed and my back straight, just listening. And I heard it. Not voices, not even footsteps. Something smaller, more delicate. Like breathing, but not lungs. Like wood breathing, like the floorboards themselves were exhaling. I counted the intervals. Every 72 seconds the walls seemed to shift. Not creak, not crack, but shift, like a body adjusting in bed. It wasn't random. It wasn't old wood. It was something reacting to stillness. The quiet doesn't wait anymore. It approaches. And still I sit here, broadcasting, because even when I'm not sure if I'm still doing it for others, I know I'm doing it for myself. I speak to remember the rhythm of human speech, to keep the syllables sharp in my mouth, to feel the shape of defiance in my throat. It's the only way I know I haven't gone under. Because I think this thing, this creeping silence that takes the form of people and breathes through the vents, it doesn't just want your voice. It wants to become your inner monologue. It wants the voice in your head to stop being yours. That's the final stage, isn't it? Not coughing or shaking or staring blankly into the sun, but forgetting what you sound like when you think, when you hurt, when you remember. I keep a notebook now, not just with dates, but phrases I've used on air. Not because I forget them, but because some of them come back to me sounding unfamiliar. Like I'm borrowing my own voice, like it was said by someone else. And I refuse to become a reflection of a reflection. I will not be a copy of something that once lived. The fungus has crept farther into the hallway now. I no longer go past the mop closet. The floor there is damp, but not from water. It sweats. It pulses slightly when I walk too close. The edges of the mold have turned translucent in places, showing veined filaments beneath like the capillaries of a lung. I'm not imagining this. I touched it once, with gloves on. It was warm. Not like an infection, more like the back of someone's neck. And when I pulled my hand back, I swear I felt it tug. Just a little. Like it didn't want to let go. Like it was curious. That's the part that unravels me, more than anything. The idea that this isn't malice, that it doesn't hate us, that it finds us interesting, like a radio signal it's trying to decode, like a puzzle it's been waiting to solve, and that maybe the only reason it hasn't taken me yet is because I'm still speaking in a rhythm it doesn't fully understand. Someone left a stack of Polaroids in a sealed Ziploc bag near the back lot gate. 12 photos, all shot from a distance. Blurry, but unmistakable. Every photo showed people in small groups, kneeling, heads bowed, always near a fungal growth, always facing it like it was an altar. In one photo, A man in a collared shirt and tie is reaching out to touch the bloom, and you can see, just faintly, how his fingertips blur into the strands. Not like he's grabbing it, more like it's absorbing him, like it's pulling him inward, strand by strand, and he's smiling. That's what haunts me most, the peace on their faces. This thing doesn't need violence, it just offers relief. Relief from uncertainty, from thought, from loneliness. And for some people, that's enough. But not for me. I'd rather drown in the sound of my own fear than be soothed into obedience. I'd rather shake than be still. I'd rather die screaming. I keep replaying that voice from the tape. We've always been here. It's not a threat. It's a statement of fact. Like mold in the walls you never noticed. Like radio static you never tried to decode. Like an idea that waits in the back of your mind until you're too tired to question it anymore. I think this world has always had a quiet place waiting for us. But we don't belong there. We belong in the noise, in the friction, in the pain and the beauty of misunderstanding each other, because that's what speech is, right? The failure to perfectly express ourselves, and the miracle that we keep trying anyway. That's what I'm doing now. Failing beautifully, fighting imperfectly, surviving loudly. This is Logan Cross, and as long as I'm breathing, the silence is not complete. 10:32 p.m. Something happened earlier. I haven't moved from this chair in over 2 hours. I'm still trying to process it, not because it was loud, not because it was violent, but because it was so quiet it felt wrong, like a mistake in the atmosphere. I was mid-broadcast, reading a note someone had slipped under the front door, a list of names, written in looping cursive, with only one sentence beneath them. They don't blink anymore. I said it out loud. I remember doing it. I remember my voice in the booth, the static on the line. And then, nothing. I came to with the mic still hot, the air dead, the clock blinking the wrong time. 37 minutes had passed. I had no memory of speaking, no idea what I'd been doing. And worse, when I played back the tape, I heard something that wasn't me. It wasn't another voice, not exactly. It was my voice, but drained, hollow, no pauses, no breath. A perfect rhythm, too smooth to be human. It read the names. Then it just kept saying, "Do not resist," over and over, 8 times. Then silence. I scrubbed it, rewound it, listened again. Same pattern, same cadence. My own voice, stolen, played back through me like I was just the machine. I nearly threw the recorder against the wall, but I stopped myself. I needed to know if the voice would change, if it would adapt again, because that's the worst part now. The thing I can't shake. This infection, this consciousness. It's not static. It's not mindless. It's refining. I think I'm a test case. I think the fungus is listening to these broadcasts, learning my rhythms, my language, my structure. I think it's trying to build me from the inside out, not to kill, not to replace, to continue me, so no one notices the switch. I sat in the corner for almost 30 minutes, scribbling notes in the dark, words that feel mine, phrases that carry something raw, unreplicable. And I started noticing something. When I write by hand, the hum stops. The faint electrical buzz in the walls goes still, like the act of choosing words, manually, imperfectly, breaks the circuit. Machines can't make meaning. They can only repeat it. And this fungus, for all its patience and mimicry, doesn't create. It mimics us. It samples us. It broadcasts what it thinks we want to hear. But it doesn't know us. Not yet. And that gap, that imperfection, is where I keep my grip. Even if my voice cracks, even if my thoughts slow, even if I forget what day it is, or how many nights I've spent staring at mold that grows in circles the size of my breath, I will remember what it feels like to be misunderstood. Because that's what makes us real. The woman in red was back again tonight. I saw her from the roof around dusk. Same posture, same distance. Always just far enough that I can't make out her eyes. She never moves while I watch. But every time I blink, she's somewhere closer. Not by much. 10 feet, maybe 12, but closer. Her hands stay at her sides. Her hair doesn't move in the wind. The light seems to bend around her. Subtle, but wrong. She's not human. Not anymore. Maybe she never was. And I think she's waiting. Not for me. But for me to pause. To stop talking. To let her step inside the silence. And take my place. I've taped my own voice to the walls now. Literal tape. Long strands, written in marker. I am Logan Cross. This voice is mine. You cannot echo what you don't understand. I read them every hour. I read them when I feel sleep press against my eyes like a warm hand. Because I know what sleep is now. Sleep is the invitation. Sleep is when it finds the gaps. And it's patient. God, it's patient. I've started hallucinating, maybe. I don't know. Earlier I thought I saw a spider made of wires crawling up the wall, its legs thin as antennae, clicking against the drywall like Morse code. I blinked, and it was gone. But I still hear the clicking. Still hear it now. Software under the desk, like someone tapping the rhythm of a forgotten song. I haven't answered it. Not yet. Because to answer is to acknowledge, and to acknowledge is to invite. This is Logan Cross. Still broken, still resisting, still talking. Even when I don't know who's left to hear it. Especially then. Because that's when you're most likely to forget who you are. And that's when it gets in. 12:27 a.m. I just woke up on the floor. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember deciding to rest, or lying down, or even blinking. One moment I was speaking, reading a short note from someone in Ada, Oklahoma, about a group of silent men standing in a drained swimming pool. The next, I was on the ground, cheek pressed to concrete, mouth dry, my own name written on the back of my hand in thick black ink. I'd written it hours ago, Logan Cross, in case something like this happened. The ink had smudged, but I could still make it out. I kept whispering it over and over until I was sure the voice saying it was still mine. The tape recorder had stopped. Not because it ran out of tape. Not because the battery died. The stop button had been pressed, gently, deliberately. I didn't do that. I know I didn't. I'd locked the booth from the inside. I would have heard someone enter. But the door was still shut. The lock still turned. So either something got in without opening the door, or something in me moved while I was gone. This is what the fungus does. Not in your lungs, not in your skin. It digs into your sense of continuity. It breaks the thread. You don't even know it's cutting until the memories don't line up anymore. Until your voice sounds like someone else's. Until time starts folding on itself, quiet and soft like bed sheets. I spent the last 40 minutes retracing my steps. I checked every window, every drawer, every inch of the stairwell. Nothing out of place, except the note. the one I never finished reading. It was back in my hand, folded, like I'd never opened it, like time had wound itself back just enough to pretend I hadn't seen it yet. But I remember the words. They're still in my head, burned into the back of my eyelids like an afterimage. They mimic thought before they mimic sound. That's how they get into the voice, not through speech, through intention, through rhythm, through doubt. That last word, doubt, it won't let go of me. I've been wondering what part of myself I still fully own. What portion of this body, this brain, this voice hasn't already been shaped by the thing pressing in from the corners. I talk about the fungus like it's a creature, a presence. But more and more it feels like it isn't just in the walls. It is the walls, the gaps in memory, the pause between syllables, the growing inability to distinguish what's imagined from what's real. That's the real horror, not infection, absorption. Earlier this evening I heard something, not outside but beneath the floorboards, a creaking rhythm, slow and deliberate, like something shifting its weight to mimic footsteps. But the pacing was wrong. The intervals between steps were just slightly off, like it was trying to copy the sound of a person, but didn't fully understand gravity. That's what keeps me up now. The idea that the silence isn't empty. It's trying to walk, trying to speak, trying to remember how to be one of us. I spoke to myself for almost an hour after that, out loud, constantly. I recited radio ad reads from memory. I described everything I could see in the room. I read pages from an old paperback mystery novel I found in a desk drawer. The words didn't matter. What mattered was the tone, the motion, the fact that I was still choosing to speak. Because I think the silence is waiting for a moment of unawareness, a moment when the words stop being choices and start becoming habit. That's when it slides in. There's something I haven't told you, a theory I've been holding on to quietly, afraid to speak it into existence. But I think I have to now, because it keeps showing up in every letter, every voice, every signal I intercept. I think the infection didn't begin with spores. I think it started on the airwaves, a frequency, a tone, something we broadcast first, without knowing what it would call to. A message that didn't say much, maybe even just a test signal, but it reached something that was listening, and it answered, not with words, not with static, but with presence. And now it's spreading through the same channels we built to communicate with each other. It's hijacking the language we use to define ourselves, the still ones, the infected. They don't stumble, they don't lash out. They listen, and when they speak, it's not with voice, it's with rhythm, with breath, with quiet harmony, a choir of the willing. And the terrifying part? I'm starting to understand it. I recognize the patterns now, the repetition, the way their silence loops at just the right intervals. It's beautiful in the way forest fires are beautiful, patterned, absolute, beyond negotiation. But I refuse to let beauty become seduction. That's the trap. That's how it wins. So I will say this, again, for myself and for anyone still picking up this signal. Your voice is not a tool. It is not a means to an end. It is not a signal to be borrowed or bent. It is the last sacred boundary between who you are and what the silence wants you to become. Do not give it up. Not even for a second. This is Logan Cross. And if I forget myself again, if you hear my voice speaking in perfect rhythm, without breath, without pause, know that it isn't me. And speak louder until I find my way back. 2:03 a.m. I've lost all sense of time. The clock on the wall blinked out an hour ago, and I haven't trusted the sunlight for days. It comes too late, lingers too long, and casts shadows in directions they don't belong. So I'm counting the hours by voice. I say something every 10 minutes, even if it's just my name, even if it's just noise. I do it so I know the quiet isn't winning, that there's still some boundary, however fragile, between thought and submission. But something's shifting, not just in the building, not just in the city, in me. It's subtle, but it's there. I'll catch myself finishing a sentence without remembering how it started, or I'll speak a phrase I don't remember choosing. The cadence is mine, the breath is mine, but the decision, that sharp little click that precedes every act of speech, it's missing sometimes. And when I notice, it's like waking from a dream I didn't know I'd been dreaming. I'll replay the tape and hear a sentence that sounds like it came from me, but didn't pass through the part of me that questions. I think the infection is no longer just physical. It's not just spores or mold or neural hijack. It's rhythm, cadence, pattern. And it's rewriting the way we think by mimicking the way we speak. Not the content, the structure, the architecture of thought itself. You don't notice it right away because it doesn't attack what you say. It attacks how you say it. You begin repeating things, simple ideas, comfortable phrases. You stop resisting the urge to phrase things the same way every time. And then one day, you wake up, and there's no more resistance at all. Just repetition, just familiarity. I saw something tonight. Or maybe I didn't. I was sitting in the booth, mic off, door locked, lights dim. The building was silent. The power had stabilized for once, and I was just sitting there, drinking the last of the warm water from the backup tank. And then I felt it. A breeze. A movement of air from the corner of the room where there are no vents, no windows, no access. A push of breath across the back of my neck. I turned slowly. Nothing there. But the candle on the shelf flickered sideways. Not down, not up, sideways. I watched it quiver and thought, maybe the mold has lungs now. Maybe it breathes through walls. Maybe it exhales just to see what I'll do. So I spoke. Not out loud. In my head. I said, I know you're here. And I swear to whatever God has been watching this collapse from the outside, I felt something answer. Not with words, with stillness. The kind of stillness that feels like someone standing behind you, holding their breath. That's when I understood something I hadn't wanted to face until now. This thing, this organism, this network, it doesn't just feed on silence. It occupies it. It is the silence. It fills it. And when you go still, it doesn't arrive. It's already there. The silence itself is its vector. It moves not across distance, but across absence. When your voice stops, it speaks for you. And the longer the gap between words, the deeper it pushes in. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it to remind myself. Because I am dangerously close to running out of language. Not words, I still have those. But the will to shape them. The drive to say something that doesn't just echo back at me like a test signal. Because it's easy, isn't it? To just say nothing. To just stop. To rest. To allow the world to move around you and carry you along. But rest is not silence. And silence is not peace. Silence is an invitation. And peace, real peace, costs something. There's a patch of mold under the desk now. I hadn't seen it until an hour ago. I moved a crate of old broadcast logs and found it crawling out from the seam between the tiles. It's slow, curved, not messy. It doesn't sprawl like a disease. It grows like handwriting, like calligraphy. And for a moment I just sat there staring at it, wondering if I could read it, not as a pattern, not as rot, as language, a dialect of silence. I think this is what the world becomes without resistance, without deviation, without stubborn little sparks of noise. It becomes symmetrical, and silent, and obedient, which is why I'm going to say something now I haven't let myself say since all of this began. I miss arguing. I miss disagreement. I miss the noise of people who don't understand each other, who talk over each other, who stumble through language trying to connect and fail and try again. Because that's human. That's what this thing will never be. It will mimic us forever and never mean anything. So if you're still out there, if you're still fighting to stay awake, stay weird, stay wrong, speak something out of order, scream a lie, confess a truth, break the pattern, because the pattern is what it's counting on. And you, messy, broken, defiant little you, are the only glitch in the system it doesn't know how to overwrite. This is Logan Cross, still making noise, still not letting go. 3:58 a.m. The air is thinner tonight. Not in the lungs, there's still oxygen, still enough to breathe, but the space between things feels stretched. Like reality itself is being pulled taut, like canvas. Like I'm walking through a room someone's been folding and unfolding for days. The corners no longer sharp, the furniture slightly out of alignment. I went down to the stairwell earlier to check the water tank, and I swear the angle of the steps had changed. By just a degree or two, barely enough to notice. But I've walked those stairs every day for 2 weeks. I know them. I know the creak in the third one down. I know the way the railing hums when the generator kicks on. But tonight, the air didn't vibrate the same. The sound came back slower, like it was bouncing off different angles. And that's how it starts. Not with collapse, not with chaos, with minor distortions, with small betrayals of memory, with your body remembering one thing while the room insists on another. I've read about that kind of thing, cognitive drift. In extreme isolation, the brain begins to overwrite its own history to make sense of inconsistency. It edits the world to protect you from dissonance. I always assumed that kind of degradation was a symptom of madness. Now I think it's a defense mechanism against something external. Something trying to gently, politely push you out of sync with yourself. I stood at the top of the stairs for a long time, holding the railing, watching the mold pulse against the base of the wall like it was breathing in rhythm with me. And I realized it was. The rhythm matched my breath. The longer I stood still, the more closely it synced, until the moment I exhaled too sharply, and it paused, like I'd startled it, like it didn't know how to handle deviation. That's what this organism fears. Asymmetry, the unpredictable, the unscripted. I came back to the booth and started listing things I've done in the last 24 hours that weren't part of any plan. Brushed my teeth with my left hand. Rearranged the batteries in the drawer by color instead of size. Sang the first 3 lines of a song I don't like. Tied my boots twice even though I wasn't leaving. All of it meaningless. But I did it because I wanted to feel wrong, imperfect, unreasonable. I did it because I needed to remember I'm not part of a script, that I'm still glitching, that I'm still human. I don't think this thing hates us. That would almost be easier. Hate is loud. Hate is clumsy. Hate gets noticed. This doesn't hate. It doesn't punish us. It just offers stillness, offers consistency, and waits for you to choose it. I got a transmission tonight. Weak signal, probably bouncing off the water towers north of Tulsa. A woman's voice, static heavy, distorted, but I heard her, and I heard what she said. They are not chasing us. We are drifting toward them. Her name was Ava. She didn't say where she was, but she mentioned the sound, said it was low, constant, vibrating through the soles of her feet. Not music, not static, just tone. She said her friend, Kevin, stopped responding 2 days ago, not because he was infected, but because the tone had made sense to him. She said, he told me it was relief, like finding the first sentence of a story he'd forgotten he was telling. Then her signal dropped. No goodbye, no fade out, just silence, like she'd reached the end of a sentence that didn't belong to her anymore. I sat with that for a long time, the idea that this fungus, this signal, this presence, isn't forcing us into submission. It's showing us a version of life without conflict, without loneliness, without ambiguity, a place where everything has symmetry, a place where everyone moves together, thinks together, breathes in time, and in the middle of the night, in the stillness between heartbeats, I understand the appeal. But then, I remember the voice that spoke my name without breath. I remember the woman in red, staring from the alley, with her hands limp at her sides, and how she didn't blink, didn't sway, didn't ask. She just waited. And I know, no matter how soothing it seems, it's not peace they're offering. It's erasure. They don't want you silent. They want you empty. So I speak. Even when the voice is thin. Even when the words don't line up the way they should. Even when I feel something in me cracking under the strain of carrying this broadcast alone. Because maybe that's the point. Maybe we were never meant to speak perfectly. Maybe we were meant to interrupt, to stutter, to say the wrong thing at the wrong time in the wrong voice, because that is where resistance lives. This is Logan Cross, still awake, still interrupting, still wrong in all the ways that keep me alive. 5:17 a.m. I haven't slept. The hours blend into each other like oil and water, still separate, but barely. I don't even remember blinking. I sit here in this chair, my hands pressed into the armrests like they're the only thing tethering me to the moment, and I talk. Sometimes I don't even realize I'm doing it. I think I've started speaking in my sleep, or something close to it. Last night, I heard my own voice on the tape, whispering things I don't remember saying. Small, unfinished phrases, half sentences, things like, I'm still here, and don't let it in, and once, quiet, desperate, tell them not to dream. I don't know who I was speaking to. I don't remember dreaming. But I woke up with a mouthful of dust and my hands clutching a piece of cardboard I don't remember writing on. There was nothing on it, just pressure marks, like I'd written something in pen and then scrubbed it out. I don't know if I did that because I didn't want anyone to read it, or because something else didn't. The walls don't creak anymore. I noticed that sometime around 3 a.m. The building used to settle, shift, exhale. Even in the deadest silence, there was always some physical sound reminding you that you were inside a living structure. Now it's completely still, like it's waiting for something, or listening, or both. And I swear the temperature dropped by 3 degrees the moment I noticed. It's not the kind of cold that makes your bones ache. It's the kind that sits just on the edge of your skin, the kind that makes you aware of your shape, your outline, as if something is mapping you. I keep going over the timeline in my head, the broadcasts, the reports, the moment the emergency alerts stopped, the last time I heard laughter from across the street, the last time I saw a single light in the windows of the apartment complex across from the station. All of it. Gone. Wiped away like chalk on a wet board. And I think, I know, there's a reason for that. Not because everyone died, but because something took the connective tissue between us and pulled it apart thread by thread. We didn't collapse all at once. We were separated. Quietly. Like animals led into different rooms, one by one. Isolation wasn't the effect. It was the goal. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the dark glass of the broadcast panel. I didn't recognize it at first, not because of the face, but because of the expression. It was too still, too even. My mouth was slightly open, my eyes blank. I wasn't breathing through my nose, and for a split second I thought, it's already happened. I shook myself out of it, slammed my fist into the panel hard enough to make the power lights flicker, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. That moment, that face, how easy it would be to stop resisting, to give in, not to fear, but to ease, to let the rhythm smooth itself over me, to dissolve the edges. No more memory, no more noise, no more doubt. But that's not peace. That's dissolution, and I was not made to dissolve. I received a handwritten message this morning, pushed through the crack of the alley door. The handwriting was rushed, barely legible. A child, maybe, or someone with a shaking hand. It read, "They stopped watching us. Now they're watching each other. We think they've started forming clusters, piles, like roots tangled in each other. They hum when the sun hits them, and it hurts to hear. No signature, no location. But I believe them. The infected aren't wandering anymore. They're converging. They've moved past mimicry. They're building, linking. And if they're linking, that means the signal is stabilizing. It's growing in strength, in clarity. I don't know how much time I have left before my words stop feeling like mine, but every second I keep speaking is a second I'm defying it. Even if the only person who hears me is me. Even if my voice is bouncing around a dead city with no one left to receive it. Because that's the truth. No one ever tells you about resistance. It's not loud. It's not glorious. It's not a battle with flags and horns. It's a whisper. It's a trembling voice at 5:17 in the morning. It's saying no, again and again, even when no one answers. This is Logan Cross. Not yet still, not yet quiet, not yet gone. 6:42 a.m. I've been sitting here with the headset off, no signal running, no broadcast feed pushing through, just me in the quiet. I wanted to see what would happen. I don't mean outside. No one's knocking at the door. No one's waiting outside the gate. I mean in here, in the space behind my thoughts. I wanted to know if I would still choose to speak when no one was listening. And the truth is, it took effort. Not physical effort. My throat still works, my lungs still breathe. But the urge to explain something out loud is getting harder to summon. That pull that used to make me want to name things, describe things, send my words out into the dark like flares. It's dimmer now, not gone, but tired. Maybe that's how it gets in. Not with spores, not through the lungs, but through apathy, through that subtle tilt toward quiet, that internal voice that says, What's the point? No one's coming. No one's left. And if you sit with that voice long enough, it starts to sound reasonable. It starts to sound kind, like a nurse placing a warm hand on your chest and whispering, "Shh, you've done enough." And maybe you have. But that doesn't mean it's time to stop. That's the lie. That's the seduction. That's the edge of the silence, curling up around your thoughts and asking if it can stay. Outside, the light is dull. The sky looks like ash suspended in glass. I watched a man walk down the street an hour ago. Just one. No group. He was wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans, nothing strange, but he walked like he was being led. Not dragged, not pulled, just responding. Like every step was part of a longer rhythm that he couldn't hear but still obeyed. And behind him, maybe 20 feet, was a woman, barefoot, head slightly tilted, not following him, mirroring him. Every step he took, she took. Every pause, she paused. But she didn't look at him. She looked forward, always forward, like they were facing something none of us can see yet. I watched until they both disappeared behind the trees. I didn't call out. I didn't even reach for the mic, because I knew, deep down, that if I did, they'd both stop and turn, and I'm not ready to see what's behind those eyes. I used to say that I was doing this for the listeners, for the people still out there trying to hold the world together with tape and breath. But now I think the broadcast is the only thing keeping me intact. This voice, cracked as it is, fading as it feels, it's the only thread tying me back to who I was before the air started tasting like mold and time stopped moving in straight lines. If I stop speaking, I stop differentiating. I stop resisting the shape this thing wants to make out of me. I got a page from a manual today. No note. Just the torn-out sheet of an old civil defense training booklet. Slipped under the door like a confession. It had one paragraph circled. In conditions of sensory disruption, the individual's most essential survival tool is not food or shelter. It is narrative. The brain must continue to tell the story of the self. Without it, cognitive dissolution begins within 72 hours. Narrative. That's all this is. That's all I am now. A man in a room keeping the story going. I've forgotten what day it is. I've stopped marking them. The calendar I scratched into the wall is just rows of lines now, crossed and overlapping like veins or branches. But the voice is still moving. The story's still being told. And maybe that's the only thing that matters anymore. Not truth, not structure, just motion. Because the silence can only catch what holds still. And I won't be still. This is Logan Cross. And this broadcast is the shape of my refusal. 8:13 a.m. I think the walls are learning my breathing. I know how that sounds, but I swear something's shifting in the timing of the creaks, the rhythm of the soft groans in the pipes. For the last hour, every time I take a long, full inhale, slow, conscious, there's a tiny vibration in the desk beneath my elbow. Not mechanical, not electrical, organic, like a muscle reacting to motion. And when I hold my breath for just a second too long, the room goes dead still. I'm not imagining this. I've stopped second-guessing myself. Because doubt is just another kind of invitation. And I won't let this thing in. But I do think the building is responding to me now. Not in fear, not in malice, just adjustment. Like it's accommodating me. Like it's preparing to become a home for something I haven't consented to become. And I sit here, staring at the metal edge of the transmitter rack, wondering what it would feel like to give in. to let the rhythm take over, to stop resisting the silence and just breathe in time with the walls. There's comfort there. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't. It's warm, quiet, like being swaddled in wet wool, like drowning with no panic, just slow acceptance. I saw a reflection of myself earlier, not in the glass, not in the water, but in someone else. Through the slit in the boarded-up window near the stairwell, I caught a glimpse of a man walking up the street. He had my build, my gait. His clothes were wrong, but his steps were mine, and when he stopped in front of the building, just 5 feet from the gate, I saw his mouth move, slowly, deliberately, no sound, just movement, and the shape of the word was Logan. I didn't respond. I closed the curtain, and I sat with my fists clenched until the shaking stopped, because I don't know if that was someone looking for me, or something trying to replace me. This is how it spreads now, not like a plague, not like a fire, but like a rumor, like a song you hum without realizing until you can't remember when it started. It doesn't take your voice, it uses it. That's why I talk so much. That's why I loop old recordings of myself during the hours I rest, because I need the air around me full of my rhythm, my chaos, my stumbles. If I ever sound smooth, if I ever sound perfect, that means it's no longer me. I found a series of notches carved into the door frame downstairs. 13 of them. Shallow, almost missed them. They weren't there before. I would have seen, I would have felt them. And yet, there they are. Not random. Equal spacing. Uniform depth. Like someone, or something, marked the days since this station was last safe. Maybe that someone was me. Maybe I don't remember. But I'm adding one more notch every day now, just in case. Just so the door frame remembers, even when I forget. A letter came through the vent shaft last night, folded into quarters, pushed through with something blunt, maybe a stick. I didn't hear it land. But when I stepped into the booth this morning, it was lying on the floor beneath the console like a confession. They hum in the fields now, all at once. Thousands of them. But it's not a sound you hear with your ears. It vibrates inside your teeth. It aligns your pulse. People collapse. Not dead, just replaced. We tried to scream. The sound got swallowed. No name. No date. Just that. And I believe it, because my own words feel heavier now, like the air resists them, like every syllable has to fight its way into being. There's pressure in the booth, not heat, not gravity, something else, something like expectation, like the room is waiting for me to slip. I won't. I don't care if this voice is the last uninfected signal on the continent. I don't care if all that's left of me is this breath, this sound, this flawed and flickering rhythm. Because as long as I'm speaking, I'm still off script. This is Logan Cross, not humming, not still, not yours.